Peace and blessings, everyone. We're on to the second last story, the penultimate story in many windows. Now, this is the Christmas story. Remember, each of the stories is about a different festival that the kids observe. Okay, so this one is the Christmas story, and it's written by Elisa Carbone. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She's a good friend of mine. Now, this story is about Stephanie, one of the characters, and she's the little black girl on the cover in the middle, and it's called A Christmas Swish. Now, Stephanie is telling the story. Mama and Daddy say Christmas is about remembering how Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, and about helping people who don't have as much as we do. That's why we always go to the Daily Bread Soup Kitchen on Christmas Day and help serve out the food. But I think Christmas ought to be at least a little bit about getting the things on your Christmas list, about getting the one big thing you really wanted, the one big thing you've been asking for every single year since you were 5 years old, and nobody has caught on yet. I've been writing, I want a pony, at the top of my list every year, and I've waited patiently. I've been good. I've done my chores, finished my homework, gotten good grades. Still no pony. We live on the 14th floor, Mama says. How do you suppose you can take care of a pony? What about a new bicycle? Daddy asks. It'll fit in the elevator much more easily than a pony. I shake my head. The pony won't live here with us. I'll keep him in a stable and go after school to take care of him. Once again this year there is no hint of a pony under the tree. No envelope with a note inside saying, we'll take you to the stables tomorrow to meet him. No miniature plastic pony with a sign on it saying, we'll go shopping for your real pony tomorrow. Instead, I get a sweater and some books and a new set of pajamas. I smile and say thanks, but by the time we're ready to go to the Daily Bread, I know I'm looking as long-faced as a sad old mule. Cheer up, Mama says. It's Christmas. At the Daily Bread, people are already gathering. Merry Christmas, shouts Mr. Hawkins. Merry Christmas, I shout back. Mr. Hawkins is a little deaf. I take a deep breath. I can smell turkey, biscuits, gravy, and pumpkin pie all at once. Yum. I hope there are leftovers. I'm tying on my apron when from behind someone slips a pair of hands over my eyes. Who's that? I ask, trying to turn around. Benjamin lets go and grins at me. What are you doing here? I ask. Suddenly there's a flash of color and Deepa, Jameel, and Natalie come running in too. What are you all doing here? I ask. I can't believe it. My four best friends all here at the soup kitchen on Christmas Day. We don't do Christmas, says Jameel. And everything was closed, adds Natalie. And we were complaining of nothing to do, says Deepa, so my dad said he'd drive us all down here so we could help out. Benjamin says, what are you doing here? I thought you'd be home opening presents. I sigh. I already did. And? Deepa asks. No sign of a pony? I shake my head. Deepa puts her arm around me. Maybe next year, she says softly. I'm starting to believe it'll never happen. What is it with girls and ponies? Benjamin asks. What's the big deal? I glare at him. Yeah, says Jameel. Why do you want a pony so much? How about a new bike instead? Benjamin asks. You sound like my father, I tell him. A bike is not alive. Daddy and Mama come in. Daddy says, okay, guys, who's ready to feed some hungry people? There's a chorus of cheers. Mama has a clipboard. Jameel, it's your job to check and see what needs refilling and to refill it. Stephanie, you serve the turkey. Deepa, you handle the biscuits. She continues assigning us tasks, and when she's done, they head over to the stove to stir some pots. All of a sudden, Natalie scurries under the tables. What's with her? Jameel asks. We all shrug. When Natalie crawls out from under the tables, a part of her body is twisted away from us, like she's hiding something. Hey, guys, guess what I have here? A pony? Says Jameel. Don't be silly, says Natalie, but it does have 4 legs and a tail. Before she can tell us, we hear it aloud. Meow. I can't believe it. A kitten. Natalie lets me hold him. He's so fragile and skinny. I can feel his ribs through his silky fur. Jameel says, poor thing. He's starving. No wonder he wandered in here. He smelled the food. How about a kitten? Deepa asks, looking at me seriously. What do you mean? Ask your parents, says Natalie. Benjamin nods. Yeah, he's not a pony, but he sure looks like he needs a home. You'll have to switch the riding part, says Deepa. He can ride you. She lifts the kitten up and puts him on my shoulder. Ooh, that tickles. The kitten is kneading biscuits on my shoulder and purring right into my ear. Go ask your dad, Natalie says, and I'll get a bowl of milk ready for Mr. Skinnybones. They all push me toward my father, who's carving one of the huge turkeys. Daddy. He wipes his hands on his apron and turns to me. He sees the kitten on my shoulder and sighs. Can we take him home, Daddy, please? I ask. Stephanie, sweetheart. I lay it all out. How I'm so disappointed about not getting a pony, how the kitten can take the pony's place, and how I'll take great care of him. Mama comes over too. They both frown at me with no in their eyes. The kitten is purring as if he's motorized. Natalie scoops him off my shoulder and takes him over to the bowl of milk they've got ready. But Mama, Daddy, you always say Christmas is about sharing with those who don't have as much as we do. I mean, that's why we're here. Daddy looks away, then at me, then away again. And finally he looks down at the table. Of course. I say, he's hungry. He needs me. Quietly I add, and I need him too. Someone calls my name, and I turn to see my friends. They're gathered around the kitten, who has finished his bowl of milk, and now has a red ribbon tied around his neck. Deepa holds him up and makes him wave a fluffy paw at us. My parents laugh. Daddy shakes his head, but there's a smile on his face. My friends gather around us, ready to hear the final answer. Daddy crosses his arms over his chest. Then he says, "Oh, all right." Yes! I pump my fist into the air. Mama says, I guess we have a new family member. I am so lucky, I say. Thank you, Daddy and Mama and all of you. What's his name? Deepa asks. I guess he can have the pony name I picked out. Swish. They like the name. I made a bed for Swish in a cardboard box. He sits in it and washes his small paws. Then he curls up, closes his eyes, and sighs into sleep. Where are my helpers? Daddy calls. It's time to get busy. There are hungry people to feed. We start to set out the food. Jameel's taking out the peas and carrots when he says, Hey, TJ, look, you guys, see who's here. Another helper. TJ is kind of shy, but he's great with the mashed potatoes. He even sticks around to help wash up. Finally, the last pot is dried and put away. It's time to go home, but TJ is kneeling by the box, stroking Swish on the head with one finger. When he sees me, he says, I'm not trying to wake him up. It's okay, I say. I pick up the box carefully. What's his name? TJ asks. Swish. He grins. Nice name. I don't think I've seen TJ smile before. Thanks. Daddy calls from the door. I yell back, coming. As we're going out, Daddy asks TJ if he wants a ride home. Deepa's dad has already asked him. TJ says, no, it's okay, I'll walk. You sure? TJ nods and starts walking. So we get in the car. Swish is just waking up, stretching out his toes and purring. It's the best Christmas ever. Okay, now that's Stephanie's story. And when we were talking about the level of the stories in the book, one of the concerns were that some of the levels show that some of the kids are a little bit less emotionally developed, like they're a little bit more immature. And I thought that that was actually a good thing, because in any group of friends, there are a few kids who are going to be a little bit less mature than others. Now, those are the stories about the religious celebrations. Now, how will I pull them all together to make it about TJ? Okay. Now, one thing I'm kind of good at, okay, one thing I'm kind of good as an author is I'm kind of good at delivering information and ideas behind the stories that I'm sharing. Like, my stories are never just like funny stories. They've always got a lot of stuff going on. And I think I mentioned in one of the other workshops about layers. There's what's obviously happening. Okay, well, she finds a kitten. Okay, that's what's obviously happening. But underneath what's obvious, there's a lot more going on. And that's the way life is. Like if your brain, the way your brain works is you have your conscience and then you have your subconscious. And your subconscious is basically where you store all the things that you see every day. And in the nighttime, when you dream, what your brain is actually doing is taking all of the things out of your subconscious, and it's making connections, and it's storing away as memories. Okay, and it's kind of like the process that I was doing with writing the book. In the book, you've got all these things that are happening, and they seem like they're unconnected, but they're not. They're actually connected because my subconscious, what it did is it made it all into a story arc. So the last story is the story where I tie everything up together. And all the things that I've talked about, the different ways that we're connected as a community, how we're economically interdependent, how we have our elders and our different generations, and we're dependent on that, and how we people come and people go, and we forgive people for things that they've done wrong, and people are trying to make a new start. All these things are going to come together in the last story. Okay, now. The other thing about Elisa's story about the Christmas Swish is notice how this has always been a bit of a pet peeve of mine, that people tend to, okay, if you see a kitten that is in need, or if you see somebody who's in need, then we might uh, extend our hand and help. But how come people ignore the fact they know that there are people in need, but how come they ignore the fact that they're in need, and they just live their lives until they see them? I think personally, I believe, and I guess maybe that's because I grew up very poor, and I know what it's like to be on the other side of that, like where on the side of need, where you see people with good stuff, and then you want it, like you want something, but you're too shy to ask, and you shouldn't be asking because they have no obligation to give it to you. Anyways, so what I believe is looking out for the gaps where people need things. Okay, like we have, like, there's always like drives for charity. There's always like pet projects. Like even celebrities will come out and say, "Oh, let's all raise money for, I don't know, whatever." But we really need to kind of look for this stuff, okay? And whatever we have. I love the fact that Stephanie's story is really about going to the Daily Bread food bank and helping others. Because really that's what it comes down to. Now, if you have low self-esteem, and a lot of kids do, I mean, we've thought in the past that, oh, the way parents have thought in the past that, oh, the way we help our kids get better self-esteem is we praise them. Oh, you're such a good person, blah, blah, blah. But what if they haven't done anything to be a good person? It's false. And a kid can feel that it's false. But when you look outside yourself and you go and help other people or animals, like the little kitten, when you go out and help others that have less, there's something, you get so much more. You actually get so much more. And I think the biggest idea in helping kids gain self-esteem is encouraging them to give back. When you give back, when you see people who have less than you, then it makes you appreciate what you have and stop longing for the things that you don't have. Okay, so all of the kids, I mean, look at it, what a nice bunch they are. Aren't they just a nice bunch? They all get together, they play basketball, they've got such a nice camaraderie. And then there's TJ, how they said that I've never seen him smile. You know, and when you see people like that, it's a nice idea to open your hand and invite them in, okay? Because you don't know what people are suffering. You don't know what they're going through. And just the act of an open hand, a gesture, inviting them in, which is what they do with TJ. I mean, when TJ's stroking the little kitten's head and everything, I mean, Stephanie doesn't say, "Well, hey, what are you doing?" No, she invites him in. She has that welcoming attitude, And that's going to make all the difference, okay? The last story is coming up, and I really love the last story. It just warms my heart. And remember, this is all about community. So these kids, one of the reasons why they're such good friends, one of the reasons why they're such good kids is because they do go out and they help those who have less. And in this time of community, do something for those who have less. And what that does, I mean, as long as you have a roof over your head and you have food that you can eat for the day, you're actually pretty good. There's a lot of people who don't even have that. So be thankful and be grateful for what you do have. And don't focus on what you don't. Okay? Focus on what you have. If you have a family who loves you, if you have safety, that's a lot. Don't underestimate that. That's actually pretty good. And when we have times of trial, like right now, there's the pandemic going on. When we have times of trial, look to those who need help. And when you help them, you also fill yourself with, I don't know, goodness. Okay? Thanks. And tomorrow, I mean, well, maybe not tomorrow, maybe the day after, I'll do the last story. Thank you for listening.